Hi,
Can I
James.
can I start by asking you about the IPL auction this morning? Just wondering if you followed it out there and what you made of it.
Yeah, I think there's quite a bit of interest, isn't there, around it? Obviously, there's been a couple of our guys that have gone, which is fantastic news for them. Um, and yeah, there's been some serious money that's been thrown at a few of the guys. I mean, I think Carl Jamieson's now just gone for 15 crore, I do believe. So yeah, he's the latest one, and yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Is it pleasing to see Moeen do so well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really pleasing to see any of your teammates go for that amount of money. The qualities that Mo has, you know that it's worth every penny, and it really is fantastic to see him go for that amount.
Chris Morris fetched £1.6 million. Darren Milan 150,000. What did you make of that disparity?
I don't think there is much you can make of it, to be honest with you. That's the IPL auction. Um, I think you've seen Riley Meredith, Jai Richardson, Carl Jamieson, all fetch well over a million US. So look, I think you can't necessarily compare individuals like that. I think it goes on the balances of what teams are looking for, and if they're wanting a certain role within their side to fill, then they'll be going for you no matter what.
It does obviously create huge interest and huge revenue as well. There's been a bit of negative reaction from some England fans about the fact that some players are missing tests to rest, yet playing in the IPL. I just wonder, as a player, what your response to that is.
Look, I think that that's part and parcel of the game at the moment. I think that you've obviously got guys that are a red ball contracted, a white ball contracted. You've got some guys that have both contracts. So I think that guys that are playing white ball cricket, white ball contracted, being able to go and play in the IPL is something that you can't say don't go, because that's kind of the contract that they've got in England. Look, when it comes to the resting and everything like that, if you're asking people to be away from home there was the whole of from January the 2nd to the 29th of March, to be away from home for that period of time off the back of being in bubbles all of last summer, to being in bubbles before Christmas and then come out. Look, at some point people are going to need rest, and that's what the coaching staff and the selectors have decided. When people are getting rested, look, that's up to them and their choices. Us as players, that's what their choices are. So yeah, it's one of those. We want the best for everyone, and mentally we've obviously got to stay as fresh as we can. Being in hotel rooms and not being able to leave hotel rooms and hotels is taxing at the best of times. So look, we everyone's trying their best to stay fresh and trying to produce the best performance on the pitch.
And as professional sportsmen with limited career spans, is the IPL money simply too good to turn down?
Well, I think that when you're talking about that kinds of money that I mentioned, when you've got like the likes of Carl Jamieson, the likes of Chris Morris, he's obviously not played for South Africa for a few years, and he's just gone for £1.6 million. Now, yeah, if you're going for that money, it's very hard to turn down, isn't it? I think that it'd be hard for anybody to turn down.
But is it unfair, do you think, then, and just finally from me, is it unfair to say that England are prioritising T20s over Test cricket at the moment then?
There isn't. I don't believe that there are priorities with it. You look at our away record. I think we've won six out of our last 7 now. Test matches away from home. You look at the performances that we've had in ODI cricket, the performances that we've had in T20 cricket over the last 12, 24 months, and those results don't come by prioritising one over another. All 3 formats of the game for England have been producing results, And if the guys are going to the IPL improving their skills, that doesn't mean that they're just improving their skills for T20 cricket. That's improving their skills for ODI cricket. That's improving their skills for Test cricket as well. Also playing alongside some of the best players in the world, not to mention playing in conditions that are similar to what we're playing in currently in the tests, also with the ODIs and T20s, especially when you've got a T20 World Cup coming up at the end of the year. It covers all three formats as playing in the IPL, playing with, like I mentioned, playing in the conditions, but also playing with some of the best players in the world and learning from them.
Thank you, Jonny.
No problem.
Stefan, please.
Hi, Jonny. Thanks very much for your time. You touched on about the benefit of going home. Just for you personally, how do you feel now compared to the end of the Sri Lanka series when you went home to have your rest? What's the benefit been for you?
Benefit is you get to go home. You get to sleep in your own bed. You get to cook your own food. You get to be with your family. That's the benefit of it. It's a complete mental refresh. You guys have travelled enough and been around tours enough to know that we're around in the summer enough to know that how tough it was for not being able to leave the hotel all summer, not being able to leave the hotel all winter. You're going down into a dining room and sitting on separate tables. You're not necessarily able to have the food that you would choose to cook at home. So getting home for that refresh and getting home for the mental refresh, the physical refresh was really important, because we've got 17 tests coming up in this calendar year. There's all of the English summer, then I believe that there's Bangladesh and Pakistan, then you've got a T20 World Cup, and then at the end of all of that, you've got 5 tests against Australia in the Ashes. So at some point, people are going to have a bit of a break for that mental refresh. Otherwise, you'll have people in however many months, however many years, being mentally and physically exhausted, if not injured.
This week, we've learned that Moeen Ali was asked to stay on to maybe rearrange his period of rest. For you in Sri Lanka, you just got your place back in the test side after a period out of it. If you'd been asked to stay on, what do you think you'd have said?
Look, there is some buts. I was told that was my rest. So I don't know the conversations that have been had with Mo. Look, at some point, people are going to have rest, like I've said. So I'll put that back on you. When would you have foreseen my rest have been?
I'm not England management, so I can't answer that one. You've touched on the debate about players being rested for test matches, but also taking part in the IPL. For you, you've had the IPL in the autumn, you've got an IPL coming up, but you also pulled out of the Big Bash League. There's so much for players to consider, isn't there? You know, we know how proud you are to play for England, but you talked about the benefits of playing in these competitions, not only because of the experience and the skills you learn, but also the financial rewards. You know, how difficult is it for players to weigh up all those things and balance all those things together?
Yeah, absolutely. It is difficult because I'm not on a red ball contract currently. So naturally, when you're signing for the Big Bash, you've got, like was mentioned earlier, you have a time span and a career span, and you want to make the most of the time that you have. So obviously, I lost my red ball contract last year, so having the opportunity to go and play in the Big Bash arose, and you're going to try and take it. At that point, I didn't know that it was in the plans to be recalled for Sri Lanka. But like you said, I wanted to play Test cricket, and that's why those plans got put on hold. And I went to Sri Lanka and played in the Test matches. There's lots of different things for people to juggle within cricketing careers currently. Absolutely, but that's the nature of the sport at the moment. And there's a reason why I went to Sri Lanka. There's a reason why I'm here in India and wanting to play Test cricket, and that's to hopefully do well and play Test cricket for England. And by doing well, you get rewarded by earning your contract back. So yeah, it's tricky.
And just finally from me, if the Sunrisers get to the final stages of the IPL, will you be there, or will you be making yourself available for the New Zealand Test matches in June?
I don't. You know more than me on that. I don't even know the dates of when they're potentially playing the final, and I don't know the dates of the New Zealand Test matches. So I don't know. I've not seen the schedules. I've not seen the dates of anything like that.
Thanks, Johnny. Good luck over the next couple of weeks.
Thank you.
John Etheridge, please.
Johnny, hi. You played quite nicely in Sri Lanka without making a huge score, I suppose. But are you pretty optimistic about reclaiming that place at number 3 for the Test match next week?
I was happy with how I played in Sri Lanka. Obviously, after a while out of playing red ball cricket. So yeah, I was pleased with how I played. The pitches over there weren't exactly the easiest of pitches, so to come back into the side and bat at 3 where I haven't batted a huge amount, to score and contribute to the partnerships that I did. I think there was a couple of hundred partnerships that I was a part of, and I think that they're the crucial partnerships that you're involved in to make those big scores. Like you mentioned, I didn't necessarily get a huge score, but to be there at the end of the game in the first Test match was really important for me to do that. And no, look, as for the up and coming game, all I can do in these next few days is keep my head down, keep cracking on and working hard in the nets. And look, you can't affect too much. You can't affect too much else, and that's up to Joe and Chris and the rest of the coaching staff to make that decision.
Do you think the daylight match and pink balls will perhaps favouring them a little bit more? It might sort of counteract slightly the turn that was available in the previous match.
We've just landed in Ahmedabad, so I've not been to the stadium. I've not seen the surface, and also with the pink ball, you're not 100% sure as to, like you say, what's going to happen. I believe it's only is it the first or second? I think it's the second pink ball game that there's been in India. So I think it'll be. And there's only been, well, I think there's been less than 10 or 15 pink ball Test matches around the world. So there isn't a huge amount of data and everything to go off as to what potentially the pink ball might do in India comparatively to what it may do or have done so in Australia.
Thank you.
Andrew Miller, please.
Hi, Johnny. I was actually going to ask about number 3 position as well, but I just come back a little bit to the rotation policy. I mean, obviously, I fully understand the players have bought into the need for rest, but in your situation, given you got your number 3 place back after a year out, how many mixed emotions do you have when you do leave the squads when you're kind of the man in possession? Is it easy to get your head around it in the current circumstances, or is it still difficult to accept that you're letting someone else get that opportunity?
Well, you don't want to be leaving, do you? That's the nature of sport. You want to be, you do want to be playing, but at the same time, you've also got to understand that I'm fortunate enough to be playing in 3 formats of the game, and being able to do that and perform at the best of your ability in all 3 formats. If you're doing that for 12 months a year, I mean, from September until from August or September until Christmas, I'd had 6 nights at home, and then obviously we had the Christmas break, and then there was the tour to Sri Lanka went out on January the 2nd, and potentially you're not back until the end of May, and then into an English summer, which we don't know potentially is going to be in a bubble. So, and like we said, in 2021, there's 17 Test matches, there's a T20 World Cup, there's other international fixtures that are in the pipeline. So naturally, it's tricky to. You don't want to leave because you're playing, but at the same time, if you're physically, mentally, emotionally exhausted, you may get injured, you may lose form, you may do a number of these things in different areas.
And just on that, I mean, obviously you touched on red ball contracts a moment ago. I mean, clearly you lost out on it. Moeen lost out on it. Mark Wood didn't get one. I mean, does it feel as though maybe there's a bit of a disparity going on there, that you guys who who are available across all three formats, perhaps some of you aren't quite getting the rewards that your time deserves in the current climate?
Well, obviously we're fortunate to be playing all three formats, for first and foremost. But like you mentioned, there's Mark, Moeen, and I that haven't got a red ball contract. I'm sure that that's been discussed above me. To be honest, we're fortunate enough to play cricket for a living, but obviously, naturally, you want to be doing it and being paid what other people are being. But look, at that stage, as I say, that's above my station. I don't need to get into all that stuff. I need to just concentrate on going out and scoring runs, and let other people take care of those issues.
Good stuff. Thanks. Good luck.
Rory Dollard, please.
Hiya, Johnny. I just wonder, when you were back home on your rest period, how did you take in the test match, the first one, for example? You set your alarm for 4 a.m. to go sit and watch it on Channel 4, or were you catching the highlights? Because obviously you'd want to see how the game and how the series was unfolding.
Yeah, I think I left that 4:30 alarm clock to you, Rory. I can't say I was up other than a bit of jet
I was there
lag.
for first ball, I promise.
Well, you just had it on record and fast forwarded through it. So no, other than a bit of jet lag, I caught up with it throughout the day. It was fantastic, obviously, to get it on terrestrial and everything. But no, it was great to watch. Obviously, Ruti's 100th test and Joss's 50th, and how fitting it was for Joe to go on and score that magnificent double in his 100th test.
Mike Walters, please.
I think we've lost him. Can you hear us?
Hi, Johnny.
Sorry, I thought we'd lost you then. I thought the Wi-Fi had gone.
Hi, Johnny.
Off you go, Mike.
Welcome back. Now you've had a rest. If things go well for you in Test cricket, have you got plenty of gas in the tank to get through to next January? Because there aren't many gaps in the schedule for you to have any more rests from now on in, are there?
I've not looked at the schedule. I've not looked at the schedule as to exactly what's coming up, Mike. Yeah, I'm just trying to take it one step at a time. As I mentioned earlier, I was I'd obviously signed to go to the Big Bash, so everything kind of all the plans had changed. So obviously going to Sri Lanka and then out here is a welcome surprise. But no, I hadn't looked too far ahead, to be quite honest with you.
Just one other thing. When you came home, Geoffrey Boycott and Michael Vaughan were critical of the way you'd been treated by England. I'm not for a moment suggesting you're going to go public with any complaints, but have you got any misgivings at all about going home for a rest when at the time you did?
I think that's up to the selectors and the coaches. That's their decision to decide when people are going home, around the scheduling, as to when they see fit for people to go back. Because like I mentioned earlier, if you're playing all three formats, and the selectors said that if you were an all three format player, then you were going to get some break between the 2nd of January and obviously the end of March. I think it's the 29th.
Fine. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thanks.
Last one now, please, from Paul Newman.
Hi, Johnny. Can you just remind us of the logistics of your trip home and back again? 'Cause I think you were saying on Channel 4 the other day you had a long bus ride.
Yeah. So the journey back was fine. We just we flew straight into Heathrow and everything, and then the journey back out was obviously 4 hours. 4 hours down to Heathrow, where we nearly broke down, which was interesting. And then we had the flight out to Bangalore. So we arrived in Bangalore, had our COVID tests and everything like that. Had to wait in the airport. Well, we waited in the airport for our results. everything was negative. And then we had a 7.5-hour bus journey across India from Bangalore to Chennai. Yeah, we weren't allowed to stop on that journey either, which was interesting. Yeah. So I'll let you put your own thoughts into how that trip was.
That was you and Woody, was it?
So there was myself and Woody, and then some members of staff, and then we arrived at the hotel, and we went to our bedrooms. Unfortunately, there wasn't any fresh air in the rooms, which naturally made it quite tough, the quarantine period. But yeah, we got through that, and all tests have come back negative, and we joined the group a couple of days ago. Went to training yesterday and had a bit of a bat, and Woody had a bit of a ball.
It is very demanding mentally, all this, isn't it?
Yes, it's tricky. Yeah, it's tricky with obviously logistics, the quarantine periods, especially are very tricky when you're naturally on a plane, and there's you've been quarantined at home effectively because you don't want to, first of all, contract the virus for loved ones within your family, but also don't want to contract the virus, because then if you do, then you can't board a plane to then come out and rejoin the tour. But then you're on a plane with obviously people that you've never met, and then you get to the airport and you're kind of greeted by a lot of loving Indian supporters and fans, and it can be tricky trying to make sure that you're doing everything you can in your remit to make sure you don't get the virus, because you want to be here. But then there's obviously things that you can't help, which is other people and the spaces that they get into, and then you're obviously quarantined in your rooms, hoping that you haven't caught anything on a journey over, because you'd be in the rooms for another 14 days. So yeah, it is. It's quite mentally taxing, and I think you hit the nail on the head with that, with the way that you phrased it.
And sorry, just finally, how many days did you get at home? Was it 8?
To be honest with you, it felt like one. I'm joking. I think it was slightly more than that. I think it was about 10 days at home. I think it was, yeah. Because we obviously then had to fly out and then do the quarantine and then everything else.
Thank you.
So hopefully we get back to some sort of normality. The vaccine seems to be rolling out well in the UK, and look, we're hopeful that things get back to normal, like I'm sure that most of you guys are, and we just hope that everyone that we know and you guys know and everyone that we can try and help stays as safe as possible. That's the main thing.
Absolutely. Thank you.